Hello everyone, my name is Elvis Kwam. I am a medical doctor, a general practitioner having a fellowship in infection prevention. Usually I make videos on YouTube to talk about healthcare and disease, kind of getting information to everybody who is interested. It's been quite some weeks now that I've started this journey, and I have noticed that there are many people on the internet trying to give information about healthcare. What is striking is there's so much misinformation, even from people who are supposed to know and to inform. Therefore, I decided to do at least one video per week, spending different topics to explain as much as I can a different disease or a different treatment about daily life and daily precautions we need to take for our health. So, today my topic is cancer. Cancer, we hear about it all the time. It's quite a frightening disease. To be exact, it's a group of disease that everybody is scared of. What you have to know is our body is divided in different tissues, then different organs that work together concurrently for us to stay alive. If we can take it as a comparison, if our body was a house, the tiniest part of it would be a stone or bricks to make walls and then to make the house itself. And then in reality, our body is composed of what we call cells. Cells are the tiniest unit that unite itself, divide, makes tissues, organs that work together and then give us the ability to perform different kind of things. So, in cancer, there is an uncontrolled proliferation of cells resulting from a failure of the regulatory mechanism that ensure an harmonious development of our body, coexistence of normal cells with one another. By multiplying in a chaotic manner and altering the environment, cancer cells give rise to what we call tumors. They grow larger and they grow larger again, invading and destroying the surrounding areas. Therefore, cancer cells can also spread to other areas, other organs at a distant place. That's what we call metastasis. So, because it's such a tremendous subject, a very vast topic, I would like to take the opportunity of today to talk about a major book that was published several years ago, 2010 to be exact. And it was published by somebody called Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee. The book's name was The Emperor of All Maladies, A Biography of Cancer. This book is so relevant today because actually it tells the story of cancer since the first time it was discovered in history up to today, relating to every type of treatment that was implemented since the beginning, to the knowledge that we have today, and also to the perspective that may happen in the future. Like I said, cancer is not quite a disease. It's a group of diseases, because you can have a cancer in different parts of your body, either in your blood, either in solid organs like the bone, liver, stomach, other places like the uterus, prostate, lungs, and so on and so forth. The first part of the book talks about the history of cancer, actually. So, Dr. Mukherjee traces the disease back to the earliest known instances. He talks about an Egyptian papyrus of a physician that was called Imhotep back in 2500 BC, which described breast tumors with a chilling conclusion. He said there was no cure. For centuries, cancer remained a mystery for all of us, even for the greatest physician in history. Then, at some point in time, the physician that was called Galen said it was caused by an excess of black bile that he named melancholy. Then the book details how, since the 19th century through the 20th and then to the 21st century, medicine attempted to eradicate cancer through brute force. The first instance was when they decided to do radical surgery. There was a physician, a surgeon that was called William Halsted in the US. And he tried on breast cancer to perform what was called a radical mastectomy, which was an approach meaning he would remove the breast that was concerned and the neighboring lymph nodes. Then came a time when radiation therapy came out with the help of Pierre and Marie Curie. That makes now people use X-rays and radiation. That's what we call now radiotherapy. Later on in time, we had the birth of what was called chemotherapy. Chemotherapy in the war of cancer was a major milestone because molecules were found. One of them was what was called amnoterine. In the case of leukemia, acute lymphoid leukemia in child, amnoterine was the first drug that was actually used to cure or at least to stop cancer, blood cancer for a while. Many people, philanthropists for sure, for instance, Mrs. Mary Lasker was one of the major people in the US at that time to lobby and to call for financial decision from the government to the private sector to finance the war against cancer. Through time, the technique evolved. Then, what was designed or what was thought to be caused by melancholy or black bile, now we understood that many causes can be etiologically linked to what happened before we have cancer. Then they said cancer is not an infection or a simple cluster of uncontrolled cells, but rather a disease of DNA. DNA, which is a molecule located in the cells and was actually the basis of all life. Then the author mentioned something very important. He said there are some genes that we call oncogenes that kind of accelerate the apparition of cancer, and some other genes that we call tumor suppressor genes that will be like what we call brakes. Then, once cancer occurs and our genes mutate, the inner working of a cell changes completely, and the cell that is supposed to work for us then starts working against us. The discovery of that thing also led to a major milestone. Now, a new drug that we call targeted therapy was found. One of them was imatinib, or as it was called commonly, Glivec. Those kind of molecule, those kind of drugs attacks specifically cancer in the inner function, just like the way a key will be jammed in a lock and make it unworkable. Then in the history of cancer, epidemiology and prevention became the real way of preventing, because prevention is better safe than sorry, as you know. Instead of waiting for the people to develop cancer, they wanted to understand what were the major causes of cancer that we could step on to make it not at least come out or develop in a human being. As time was going, those factors, those major findings came out, and the chemotherapy, the targeted therapy, the radiotherapy, and also the surgery were the cure that we use. But then, what were the causes that we could step on to make cancer go away? As a summary, we know that 60% of cancers, whether it's in liquid tissues like the blood or in solid tissues like the liver, the lungs, stomach, the bowels, etc., the most common cause of cancer is cigarette smoking. The second most common one is obesity. The third one is sunlight in some way. Fourth one, asbestos, which is a kind of soil. And then radiation. At the bottom of the list were specific viruses such as the HPV or the Rouse chicken virus. For all those discoveries were made, we now know that 40% of cancers are idiopathic. That means we actually don't know what causes those cancers. The work on human genome, like work on trying to find out which genes in the human body were actually responsible of genes, has started. Because actually, since 2003, the whole human genome was discovered. Now, scientists are trying to find out which genes specifically, just as in the case of what we call the Philadelphia chromosome, which other genes can we target to stop cancers even before they declare as symptoms. Last but not the least, I would like to mention the 5 major cancers, both in women and in men, and then how to prevent. In women, the most common cancers are breast carcinoma, which accounts for 25% of all cancers, invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer, endometrial carcinoma, uterus cancer, ovarian epithelial tumors, and human papillomavirus caused adenocarcinoma. Lungs and colorectal are quite more male cancers, but it's not rare to find them in women as well. Remember, early screening and healthy lifestyle choices always save lives. So, avoiding tobacco, maintaining good weight to limit alcohol consumption, and eat nutritious food are the main ways to prevent cancer. In specific cases where the cancer is caused by a virus, we would advise that you perform vaccination, especially in the case of human papillomavirus. It's advisable that young adults from age up to 26 and some of them up to 45 get vaccine. In the case of hepatitis B as well, vaccine is the safe way to go. Last but not the least, routine screening and early detection, such as mammogram for people between 40 and 75, every year or once every 2 years is advisable. Also, the cervical screening that we call pap smear should be performed every 5 to 3 years, starting age of 21. Now, how about men cancers? The men or the most common cancers in men are prostate, lung, colorectal, and skin cancers. For prostate cancers, the risk increases at 50 years plus. For lung, knowing that it is the leading cause of cancer death in men, and it is caused heavily by environmental factors and smoking, you know what to do. Avoid smoking and live in an environment with less exposure to radiation or anything that can affect the lungs. For colorectal cancer, skin cancer, and others, the main things to avoid them is, first of all, in any case, avoid tobacco, protecting your skin, eating healthily, and exercising all the time. Most and foremost, limiting alcohol consumption, and also, last but not the least, to be screened regularly, especially for prostate-specific antigen in the case of prostate cancer, and also getting a colonoscopy in the case of colorectal cancer. I hope this video was not too long and it helped you grasp a very important information about what cancer are, where they come from, how to prevent and avoid them, and also how to talk about it to your primary care physician. I'm Dr. Elvis Kwam, your favorite polyglot doctor, general practitioner, and infection prevention fellow. If you like this video, click on the subscribe button, click like and share to your close relative to make our community grow. Thank you very much and see you next time.